This is the GPL podcast, part of the Pull Tab Sports family.
Oh boy. Jupe making mistakes. I love it.
Oh, he's moving the goalpost.
They can be 35th in the pairwise.
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable.
You know, I think there is some shenanigans happening in the goalie community. Are you going to speak on that?
In the goalie community. Oh,
Former goalie?
You know I got to ride with Goalie Nation, but
Now, here's Jupiter and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL podcast, episode number 291. Vigs, a pretty decent trip to Grand Forks this past weekend. I would say both games were a tale of young teams. Just seems like that's just what happens when you have young teams. One team dominates one night, one team dominates the other night. Well, in the third period.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of parity in college hockey this season. You know, even the top teams that everyone is ranking highly is struggling. A lot of mistakes happening out there on the rinks these days, and entertaining hockey between North Dakota and Minnesota, as always.
Well, Tanner Hoops has been filling in quite a bit on the radio the past couple series, but Eric Schierhorn's going to be back in the booth this weekend, so let's bring him in as a guest. Eric, how's it going, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me. I had to match what Rammer took the lead, so I got to keep pace with him.
Well, I sent that text out to you of him kind of poking at you, and you just let it kind of ride. You just kind of let it simmer, didn't you?
Yeah, well, you gotta ignore him. You know how Rammer is. You've had him on enough to understand now. So I just let it be. I knew I was going to get an invite back, so you'll have to get me in one more time before the end of the year so I can pass him back up.
Geez, well, who's paying favorites?
Yeah,
here?
right. I know what you like. It's whiskey, right?
Maybe.
Might have to airdrop something.
I like the way you think.
Yeah.
All right, back to hockey, Vigs. Boy, Rude got his first goal Saturday night. I love that.
I think it's good for his confidence. I know, after last year, people were kind of like, what's going on there? I haven't seen him getting a lot of practice time. And I think the coaching staff is pretty pleased with him. They like the way his attitude was through last year and the way that he's embracing things this year. It's good confidence to get a goal. It's not exactly a laser beam from the point, but it found its way there, and that's a good memory for him to have it be against North Dakota. But I think he's a player that just adds a little something to the back end, just a little bit of calmness that we're seeing, and that's something that the Gopher Blue Line needs more of. You look at some of the minutes that guys were playing this past weekend. I think Cal Thomas hit 27 minutes one night, and then the next Gruba and Middlestad are both over 25. So you got to find some guys back there that can take on some ice time and do it calmly.
Well, I think on that Rude goal, Eric, I think he kind of got an assist by the goalie on that one. It seemed to deflect up in the air, and the goalie, I don't know if he swatted it up, but I think he swatted it between his legs.
This is a little panicky, wasn't it?
It was. It's like, personally, I think he maybe saw it, move, and then he caught it in his eyes last time. So he tried to react, and that's just all you could do, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's if you lose visual and of the puck as a goalie, and you're fighting it or maybe not seeing it as well as you normally do, you can get a little flinchy with that. Maybe a little bear swat at it. And from there, obviously, as we saw, anything can happen. But yeah, that's usually a sign of a goalie who's either lost it, honestly, and is just trying to react in that split second where they see a flash of black right in front of their eye, or they're fighting it a little bit and they're not feeling that calm and comfortable in the net.
One thing I noticed this weekend was, teams were just dead even those first and second periods, but I think Minnesota had a nice advantage because they scored on their first shot in both games, which, kind of automatically gets you through that first kind of 10 minutes of hell.
Well, they made such a big deal about that all week is that in North Dakota, the first 10 minutes are a storm you have to weather. And Minnesota was on the right side of the luck for the first 10 minutes of both games. I think when you go on the road, you hope for starts like that where you can get a scoring chance early and capitalize. I think Mason Mo's goal on Friday was just textbook, just touch in the net.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've been going to quite a few practices this fall. Ben Gordon works on that with the forwards after every practice, it seems like.
Okay.
Just getting that touch shot or touch, catch and shoot. They really want to get those quick releases off and catch the goalie a little off guard. And then the next goal on Saturday, just beautiful sauce and great hand-eye. Really an impressive goal to start that game as well. And I think it brought a little smile to all the players on the bench.
It definitely did. Eric, what is it like to go into a hostile environment like Grand Forks in North Dakota?
Yeah, it's honestly not really like anywhere that you play. Obviously the energy is heightened, but there's other places where the atmosphere and the fans bring the noise like they do in North Dakota. Like Penn State's one that comes to mind. Yost is another that comes to mind. But I probably told this story before. I remember when we played there, we won Friday and we were walking through the hotel, and there's a bar in the bottom of the hotel that we were staying at that we had to walk by to get to the room that we were having our meal in. And it's filled with North Dakota fans all wearing their green jerseys or whatever. And we're walking kind of single file by, and they start a "fuck the Gophers" chant, and they're flipping us off. And it's, if you're in Penn State, you might walk by a storefront or down the street and people are just like, oh, there's another college team in town, and it could be the baseball team or whatever. In North Dakota, it's on site. They're mother effing you whenever they see you. You're walking down the street to the gas station to grab a water. So it's different. It's the same in the midst of the game, but the energy surrounding it. And I remember the students, I think, lining up as our bus was pulling in, and they're all flipping us the bird and whatnot. You don't get that energy anywhere but North Dakota.
I would have to agree with you on that. Just around town, just grabbing a meal somewhere, every restaurant had people in it with sweatshirts and jerseys, and there was green everywhere. Vigs, I know you experienced that a couple of years ago. It is different than any other place.
Well, it makes the rivalry the rivalry. You need to have fans engaged to elevate everything and make it mean more. You think of the weekends that Brody Lamb had and Leo Gruba had with their sellies and their goals. Those are going to be lifetime memories for those guys. And that's why you play the game at institutions like Minnesota and North Dakota, is for the chance to make that mark. And, I got to experience it up there with you a couple of years ago. Couldn't be there this year. Looking forward to seeing it in the future, though, because it's a great one.
It's definitely a great one. Vigs, I kind of mentioned, I think teams were just dead even those first two periods, but each night, North Dakota with a Friday night, Minnesota Saturday night. What happened in those games that caused the third period to get out of control?
Well, I think for Minnesota on Friday, it was definitely all the penalties. Special teams really was a big factor. I don't think Bob Motzko was especially happy with the way the officials were calling the game. And when you have to throw out your high-end guys quite a bit, it's very taxing, especially early in the year. And I think that was an issue on Friday. I think Saturday for North Dakota, they probably ran out of gas. That emotional high of winning on Friday at home in front of your home fans. I think that plays a big factor in the weekend. And then when Minnesota wants to split the series, just see that emotion and that energy level switch a little bit.
So, they did have to kill a lot of penalties on Friday. Some of them, at least I know a couple, were pretty phantom penalties. I can understand why Bob's mad. It's just what coaches do. But, the only power play goal they technically gave up was an empty net goal on that Friday. So it's clearly, their coverage on the power play was pretty good. It's just like you said, it wore them out, and like the only goal was the empty net one.
Yeah, I think as they're fighting for the goal late on Friday, they give up that empty netter. it's tough. The Brody Zemer, Cal Thomas, Luke Milstead, a lot of ice time for them. And then just to try to have one more special teams chance at the end, not enough in the tank.
What does the coach say, Eric, when you do lose a game like that? Because I'm guessing even on the other side, you win the game and boy, they're going to come at us tomorrow night. Is it kind of a similar thing on the opposite end? We need to put more into it. What's the coach speak after a loss?
Yeah. The coach speak is pretty predictable. You got to do the little things better. We got to stay out of the box. He knows what Bob was saying because he hates penalties more than anyone. Not that anyone likes him, but they make him particularly angry. And just higher compete level, which is all true, but at the same time, it is all coach speak, regardless of how you turn it. And then on the flip side, on the winning team, they're going to come out gunning out of the gates tomorrow. We're not going to get the same penalties that we got tonight, so on and so forth. So it's really the same, and it's a constant spin zone from the coaches to try to re-engage the players depending on what the angle is, so that you don't get a letdown spot or you're extra motivated going into night two, regardless of what night one looked like.
And Vince, you've kind of talked about this over the past. When does Bob, throw the garbage can type of thing? Probably not this type of instance on this weekend, but he tends to save it for maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah, you can't kick the garbage can every weekend, or otherwise it becomes a comedy like in Letterkenny. But I heard from August Falloon at media today that the coaching staff really emphasized effort. Eric's right. They're going to target one thing, and they're going to point out, the guys who have a little bit more effort to give on plays. And maybe you're taxed. Maybe you've had a lot of ice time, but you still have to give that effort if you want to win games like this. And so that was the big message from the coaching staff. I think one thing I noticed about Saturday was John Middlestat really set the tone on a lot of forechecks, and he is just so good at stick positioning and body contact where he doesn't give defensemen easy outs. And I think that's something for some of the younger guys to learn and pick up on, because you saw on Friday night, at least, a lot of guys who were in on the forecheck, but they weren't making contact. They weren't taking away options. They weren't forcing closeout plays. And John Middlestat just has an energy to him that I think is contagious. And Bob says, our older guys are setting the tone. It's up for some of the younger guys to learn from that and start bringing that to the game. And, you saw flashes of that, I think, a little bit more on Saturday than you saw on Friday.
Well, one thing too on the kicking the trash can, I think that is a little dependent on the team that you have, right? And with the Gophers not being overly experienced and being pretty young, I think you reserve the kicking the trash can until a little farther into the season than you maybe would if you had an older, more experienced team that not to say they shouldn't be doing better than they have, but if we have last year's team with the production that was returning and the age, this start looks a little different and feels a little different than it does this year with a younger team.
And I think to build on that, we're not seeing lots of mistakes being made by Minnesota in critical parts of the ice. You're not seeing bad turnovers. You're not seeing guys not back checking. You're seeing sometimes little mental mistakes where they're not quite picking up a stick in front of their own net, or they're not finishing a check. But it's not, I don't think it's the mental lazy mistakes. It's just the level of engagement just has to rise a little bit more. And Bob's a very patient coach. He knows that the team at the end of the year is not the team that he has right now. So I think he's trying to be patient. I often talk to him and he says, I don't want to overcoach this team right now. I want them to kind of figure it out on their own. And I think it's a difficult thing to do. You have to let them go out and try different things to figure out the problems on their own. But I think in the end, you get better development if you can be that patient.
Well, one thing I wanted to talk about from the Friday night game is, I thought the defensive coverage was not great. They were letting guys open, Vigs. And then, one of those turnovers that wasn't as common did happen, and it was Mr. Airy who kind of threw the puck along the boards when he could have just left it for his player, went right to a UND player, and less than 5 seconds later, it's in the back of the net. So a combination of a turnover and coverage all at the same time is what kind of started the UND engine Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, at times they need to learn, the intensity of the game. I think sometimes players think, yeah, I was in the right spot, but I wasn't doing the right thing is what the coaches are going to be telling them. And the key is don't let it happen again. Be aware of that. EJ Emery had a great game on Friday.
Oh, yes.
He saw the space in front of him. He saw the jersey numbers. He knew they weren't going to be able to pick them up, and he was able to come down from the point. As teams get a little bit older, they're more aware. Their scanning of the ice improves. They see that stuff coming, and that's when you can maybe turn the tables. And as that player comes down from the point, you lift a stick, he misses the puck, you're going the other way, he's below the goal line. So I think those are things that they have to learn from and get some experience. But I think, and they solve the puzzle. If they couldn't do it again the next night and got swept, totally different vibe going into this week. Just like we talked about the BC game. Yes, It was a tie and a shootout, but I think if they tie and lose the shootout, or they give up the lead completely and lose the game, the vibe is totally different going into the week. So,
yeah. And Eric, I believe, we saw it in my own eyes that the team defensively played much better in front of Luka Saturday night than they did in front of Airy Friday night. I mean, I noticed there was guys covered all over the place. Luka could, even though there's traffic, could see the pucks. And I thought he also played better than Airy did Friday night as well.
Yeah, and I think that's just a sign of a young, inconsistent team, right? The effort's going to be inconsistent. The quality of play is going to be inconsistent naturally when you have a young, unproven commodity that either one is now 6 games into their college career, or 2, playing in an elevated role that they maybe weren't last year, and they're asked to be playing greater minutes and in a role that they might not totally be comfortable with, or quite frankly, be ready to step into yet, right? Because that stuff takes time. And, in years past, they've had guys come in and make immediate impacts, because you can see now when they're playing in the NHL, they had ultra high-end talent. They had Jackson Lacombe. They had Matthew Nyes. Even Benny Myers from the Hop. Granted, he was an older freshman. Logan Cooley, Jimmy Snuggerud. I don't know if any of these freshmen are them, right? And so I don't think we can expect that kind of production and that kind of immediate impact from them stepping right into a role that they're being asked to play in that immediate production, right? So again, to go back to your initial question, that was a long-winded way to say, I think this is natural out of young teams to have kind of a flat effort one night and need to be kicked in the butt the next night to go out there and take some action and right the ship.
And Viggs, this is what it kind of comes back to. I think both teams suffered the same thing. They're both young. They both played tough for a couple periods, and then they both elevated in the third period, just not consistent.
Well, and I think a big part of being a college hockey player is managing your emotions and consistency. And I think that's a really hard thing to do. And that's why I think we're seeing so many teams in college hockey split right now, is because it's hard to manage that stuff and hard to bring the consistency. And Minnesota, I think having Tanner Ludke in the lineup has really smoothed things out for them. Like if they don't get him in the portal, this team looks pretty different. Yeah. He's come in very smoothly into this program. And we've seen other transfers where it hasn't been as easy, coming into Minnesota, but he seems like a perfect fit for this roster and is producing pretty well. And I think, he's going to have a better season than I anticipated coming in.
Yeah, shorthanded goal Friday night. You had that power play goal on Saturday night, which was one of the most beautiful power play goals we've seen, Viggs. I just thought it's like they almost anticipated, at least on that goal, UND being aggressive and knowing exactly where to go with the puck. When the faceoff happened. They tried to almost do that play. The first pass missed, went to corner, came back out. They did it again. I don't know if that was the plan, but it looked like the same kind of setup. And boom, it was just a wide open tap-in goal, basically.
Yeah, Cal Thomas today was very congratulatory to Steve Miller and Ben Gordon for the scouting job that they did on special teams coming into the weekend. And I think Minnesota did great on the penalty kill and the power play. It seemed like they were a step ahead. Like, you always know North Dakota is going to be ultra aggressive on the penalty kill. So if you can move the puck smoothly, quickly, you're going to get good chances. I think there's another power play chance that LJ Mooney just missed a little bit. That was another one of those quick moving power play opportunities. And I think LJ is maybe gripping the stick a little bit tight right now. You know, he's got a lot of energy and he flashes the hand eye all the time. I think he's been a little slower to, produce in the score sheet than he'd like. You still see the effort, the intensity, and the skill there. I think it's going to click eventually. You just have to be patient. We're only a couple games into this thing.
And the jersey pop on an empty net goal.
You gotta love that, though. In North Dakota, you gotta love that. I don't know if I would have done it myself, but I don't hate watching it.
Well, not many goalies show much emotion at all, do you?
No, I never really liked it because I don't know, for whatever reason. Like, yeah,
because the pucks are coming at you.
Yeah, and the goalie can impact the game as much as anyone. But I always felt being flashy, and if you want to call it being a prick, like popping the jersey or whatnot, it's just the goalie is a protected species, right? Yeah. And so you can give it, but you're not allowed to take it because you know that 5 guys on your team are jumping a guy who even comes near you. So it always felt a little phony to me for goalies who are mouthing off and are in the face of the other players, because you don't really have to answer the bell like you would a forward or defenseman. Not that you can fight in hockey anyways, but you can still take a few lumps and get into a wrestling match. But a goalie's realistically, that's never going to happen to them if they have good teammates.
Kind of feels like Marc-Andre Fleury is like the flair of a goalie to, thank the pipes and do a little extra flash of leather here and there. But
but it's not like an in-your-face kind of thing, like, popping a jersey. Peter Mrazek was one that is high energy, kind of like that. Honestly, Swayman's like that a little bit now. But again, like, if someone touches Swayman or if someone's even mouthing off to Swayman, there's going to be 5 Bruins that are shedding their gloves immediately to pound a guy.
It's not like the old days of college hockey, which we love to bring him up like at least once a year. Sinaway Walanaimo out of Denver, a goalie. I think he's now I think he's part of like Congress or Parliament in Finland. He was just like that. He would egg on the crowd. Something would happen. He would just do outrageous things. And the thing is, he was good too. So that was just the cream on top for him.
Yeah.
So Andre Fleury, loved having him here for the Wild. Loved seeing him in the NHL for so long. And the thing is, that's just it. Everybody loved him, so they didn't really care if he was doing that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. If you're likable enough, you get a pass.
Definitely. Well, Viggs, North Dakota comes back again in October next year. It won't be MEA weekend. They come the week before next year. I think if anyone's subscribed to the calendar, you'll see it on there. I can't remember the exact dates, but like the second weekend in October. So they'll be there. And then hopefully we get to go back up there again, Viggs, in a couple of years. To thank Alec Johnson and our guy Eric Martinson up there for getting me in there. I had a great time, and of course did have a couple drinks with Schloss on Saturday night, which I just sent you a photo. I didn't want to FaceTime you, Viggs, because for one thing, you probably keep busy and you just couldn't hear in there. So, but it was good. It was a good time up in Grand Forks. At least it wasn't.
I hope to make it for the next one. So, these schools are going to be playing each other again soon.
Oh, they might play each other again this year.
Yeah.
You make it to a tournament, it could be sent to Sioux Falls. We'll have to see. But one thing we need to talk about here, Viggs, is Gateway Fiber, who is sponsoring the GPL podcast.
Yeah, Gateway Fiber, Minnesota, state of hockey. Bad internet connection for us is like a bad line change. It slows everything down, causes chaos. You might even lose the game. Don't be that guy on the podcast with bad internet. Don't be that guy in the office who's got bad internet. Get the best. Like, we rely on fiber for our shows, so check them out. They'll keep you skating at full speed. They offer great reliability, customer service where you don't have to sit in the penalty box. And we're talking speeds up to 2 gigabits per second. Gateway Fiber just isn't another provider. They're on your team. Visit gatewayfiber.com or call 1-800-201-4339 to see if Gateway Fiber is available in your area, because life is too short for bad internet.
All right. Let's get into Vigo's top 20 this week. Quite the change, all due to probably Michigan State going into BU and sweeping them, Viggs.
Yeah, kind of a crazy week of the big games in college.
It's been a crazy year. It really has been.
It's hard to know what to make of the top teams, because they've all kind of had some falls so far. Michigan State, big weekend on ESPN. Our buddy Paul Caponegri was in the studio for that weekend, covering for ESPN and getting a lot of eyes on college hockey. Michigan State, performed pretty well. BU is a younger team, so that roller coaster of a season is continuing for them. The big surprise for me is how well Michigan has played so far. They had that big series against Maine, and they just took it to them. So very impressive out of Michigan so far.
And they've got like 40 goals on the season too. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they're really putting them in there. So it's it's pretty impressive. We all know that on this show we don't always give Naruto a lot of credit, but he's got them going right now.
North Dakota and Penn State in there, obviously. There's the big drop in Boston University. Quinnipiac jumping up every week, Viggs.
It was Quinnipiac in Maine. That's who I was talking about. Michigan played Robert Morris.
Yes.
Michigan had the good weekend the weekend before. So they play a big game this weekend, I think. Michigan against Western Michigan.
Yes. Starting tomorrow night.
Yeah. So that's the big one this week.
It's going to be on BTN as well.
I'm a little razzled on my college hockey from this last weekend. I had a lot going on. So,
hey, did you storm the field?
I did storm the field. On Friday, I got to go to the football game with my 13-year-old. And I called it more of a field pass for everyone night. I didn't think it was a
storm.
I don't think it was a violent storm in the field. It was kind of like, hey, you can take the stairs and go on the field and take pictures kind of night. The students wanted to storm the field. The rest of the fans are like, I'm not going to pass up a time to go down there and take a photo on the field and enjoy the red tears.
Yeah.
So it was a good game.
That. Yeah, definitely a good game. They definitely performed well. I'm just not sure about storming the field. All right. Denver and Maine with the big drops on your 20 there, Viggs.
Yeah. Denver losing a game to Lindenwood.
Ooh.
Is that really allowed? If you're going to be Denver, Denver got goalied a game earlier in the year with Ferris State, I believe. Mm-hmm. And so to drop another one to Lindenwood, we've got a lot of faith in David Carl as a coach, as opposed to maybe the guy at Michigan. He'll probably get things figured out. And maybe a loss like this and a loss like that earlier will help him get his message across. He's being patient with his team. Maine, dropping games to Quinnipiac after dropping games to Michigan the week before, kind of takes him down the pole.
Looks like, Providence, Colorado College, Minnesota moves up a little bit. Quite a few non-rated teams in there. Augustana, Ohio State, Minnesota-Duluth, Union. And we'll get to Minnesota-Duluth later, but their offense is really – their first line is amazing right now.
Yeah, they haven't really played the toughest schedule so far for Sandelin's team, but they're scoring a lot of goals. But a lot of teams at the back of the 20 dropped games this past weekend. So you're trying to look at, other teams who are maybe overlooked a little bit. Ohio State, Augustana. Augustana had the big weekend against Arizona State. Mm-hmm. So impressive win for them. They had another impressive win earlier.
They beat Duluth.
Duluth. That's right. Duluth's one loss.
Well,
and I think Duluth thought maybe that was a bad loss originally, but maybe Augustana is actually pretty good. Garrett Raboyne doing good things out in the Dakotas.
Yeah, that's definitely good. He'll be on the World Junior staff along with Greg Brown and Bob and Killer, and that should be fun. Anything else about your 20? Who's kind of below it right now? Who are you kind of watching?
Well, I think I'm watching Wisconsin is probably the next team on here. I need to see them play some tougher competition before I start putting them in the polls.
Drop Minnesota State. I noticed they're not on the list anymore.
Yeah, Minnesota State hasn't really been very consistent so far this season. St. Thomas, they were on my poll earlier. They dropped a game to Air Force. Michigan Tech was on here. They dropped a game to Alaska. One thing about CC on my list, I've got them at 12 right now, but they lost Max Burkholder for probably the rest of the first half of the season.
Oh, that's not good.
They were able to withstand that and have a good weekend in Northern Michigan. Once they play some tougher competition, we'll see if that continues. He was a big part of that team. We talked about him with Schlossman last week as really being, a standout player in the entire NCHC. So a tough loss for them there. I think one of the interesting things coming out of the national picture right now, the Big Ten and NCHC are doing very well in their out-of-conference games. Atlantic hockey's been a little bit better this year. CCHA has not done very well. Hockey East has just kind of been so-so. So I think we're seeing that stratification nationally again of NCHC and Big Ten doing quite well.
I did notice, Viggs, that there was a tweet today saying that, if you think there's more upsets this year, there actually are. I want to say that in the past, roughly around 25% around this time of year. Now it's up to 33% this season. So there have been quite a bit more on the upsets so far.
Well, I think there's more parity in college hockey because you don't have as many fifth years. So you're seeing teams have to go younger this year and fill more holes. Yeah. And they're less experienced. I think the last couple of years, there's been a lot of those fifth-year seniors that have kind of evened things out. Scoring is up nationally. We talk about Minnesota-Duluth having a high-scoring team against maybe a not-so-impressive schedule. But you look overall, there's a lot of games, especially on Saturdays, where scoring's up, where you're seeing 7, 8, 9 goals a game, sometimes 10 in some of these, like Michigan against Robert Morris this last weekend. So scoring is definitely up, and I think it's because of all the young players who are being inserted and the CHL players.
Yes,
there's a lot of CHL players playing college hockey this year, and I think the college game is a little bit different than the CHL game, and it's a bit of an adjustment for them.
All right, Eric, you're going to be back in the booth this weekend. It's been a little while. You excited to get behind the mic again?
Yeah, going to be rusty. I think my last game last year was December, so we're over the 10-month mark. But yeah, I love it. It's super fun, and the more that I do it, the more I get a little more comfortable with it. Not going to pretend to be even near Frank Mazzacco's prowess, but yeah, it's great. It's fun to stay close to the program. Wally is terrific at what he does, so it's fun to watch that up close and see him. The man's got, so just picture 3 printed out sheets, single space line, like 10 font, just top to bottom, and someone will pick up the puck and on Duluth, and I'm like, oh, that's Zam Plant, and he played at blah blah blah, and he had a point per game or 75 points with the Fargo Force, and I'm like, how the hell did you find that? There's a method to the madness, but
I think Frank sends it to him.
Yeah, right. Hey, how about Frank? I turned on, what was that, the Michigan Tech series, and they were doing the pregame or whatever. I was like, is that Frank? What's Frank doing?
It was a
tap
special
in for one weekend.
Jim Rich of Fox 9 was covering the Vikings in London that week. So
right.
they brought him in to just kind of fill in for Jim, and we had him on our second podcast, but he just kind of snuck on, just because actually it was the first podcast as a guest, for about 5-10 minutes because we knew this was coming, and he had not called a game, play by play or on television since the 2010 Final Five. So
wow,
more than 15 years.
That's wild.
And his voice struggled a little bit. Friday night, Saturday night was better. It was a lot of nostalgia there. It felt good. I know, he might have struggled with some names in here because he hadn't even seen half the team before. So it's a lot of new players, but
Right.
Viggs, I would have to say the nostalgia was pretty high with Frank calling those games, and it was an old WCHA foe in Michigan Tech.
Yeah, and I think it's fun for some of us longtime followers of the program to hear him do the goal calls with new players, because I thought he nailed those in the games. But I think the first weekend especially was challenging for calling the Gophers because there's so many new faces.
Yes.
And the line combinations, aren't set. So I think especially play-by-play, it's so hard to read who's out there because usually you rely on picking up the handedness, the number, the line combinations, and just in the early part of the season, it's hard to understand that stuff exactly. So you need an experienced hand like Frank to get through it.
Whereas, after most of a season, you're like, a lot of times you don't even need to see the number, Eric. You just see the style that somebody's skating, and that's so-and-so skating out there.
You see their gloves, you see how they wear their cage, you see their jersey, their pant length, like their sock tape. It's second nature. When I was playing, granted, it's not the same because I was practicing against these guys every day. Like you could blind test me just showing the heel of someone's stick to the toe of someone's stick, and I guarantee you I can nail every single person on my team. It just becomes second nature. It's 10,000 hours, right? It's right away.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's very deceiving. You see LJ Mooney out there, just the stride, the white stick, you identify him immediately,
Right.
Jimmy Clark with the bubble and Eric Paulson with the bubble, two different looking players out there. You can tell those guys right away, but it can be a challenge sometimes.
Oh, jeez. I just saw this pop up from Mote. He doesn't want to talk Gopher. He wants to hear about the Olive Garden visit I visited this weekend. Yes, I did visit the Olive Garden, the famous Olive Garden that was made famous by Marilyn, and her last name's escaping me right now. She just passed away in September. Was it 2012? She did a review of the Olive Garden in Grand Forks for the Grand Forks Herald, and it went viral. It went crazy. People just loved it after she got ripped. She did a book with Anthony Bourdain after that. So I'm like, Saturday afternoon, I'm like, yeah, I'll head down there about 3 and load it up on some carbs, like Mote said there. I think I went through 6 breadsticks. Oh my God. It was so good. That was a lot. But it was just fun because, I needed a meal anyways, because it was an early game. But oh yeah, there it is. Breadsticks, 6 of them.
What else made the itinerary of this trip? I know last time we did Rhombus, Half Brothers, Rhombus, Pizza, Brick and Barley.
Brick and Barley. That's where Brad and I met Saturday night, Brick and Barley, and it was just so noisy. It's like, because when we went to Brick and Barley with him, it was Thursday night. It was pretty open. Imagine that whole building just packed full of students, and it's like, no. So we went to the tap room, which is right next door. And I had gone to the tap room with Wally and Tanner Hoops the night before. It's kind of a cool thing. They have about 20 taps along the wall with these little digital displays of a beverage. You give your card, you get a card back, you put a card up there, and it charges you by the ounce. So this drink might be 45 cents an ounce. This drink might be 70 cents an ounce. Doesn't matter. But then you can, if you want, you can only take maybe 1 ounce of something you want to try. So it was a unique place. I had never seen that before. Viggs, as an experienced beer person, I'm guessing you've seen something like that.
Yep, Malcolm Yards over on campus, they've got a beer wall like that.
There you go, Steve. Steve says, yeah,
exactly. So it's a popular thing at some of those places, a little self-serve area.
And the one thing I did is we'd said hi to Tanner Morgan in the past. Tanner Hoops. Sorry.
I was like,
No.
is he making a guest appearance for the football team?
No, I'm sorry. Tanner Hoops. You'd see him. It's passing. Didn't really know him, but got to meet him, and in person, that voice is just. It's like, wow. You think, because you hear a lot of announcer guys, and they kind of got their voice. They talk like this. Jamie Verbrugge is very much that. Whenever you met Jamie at football or hockey, whatever he calls, but his normal voice is not so radio like. That is Tanner Hoops' voice. It is just like that, and it's like, whoa, just wow. So,
yeah, it's made for sports broadcasting. He interviewed me for like the little alumni bit, either for the first series or the second series of the year. I can't remember, but he started talking. I was like, whoa, it's just like it's deep legit. Projecting play-by-play / analyst voice, and I'm like, is this thing turn off, or is this real? And it's full real. I told him at the end, I'm like, dude, your voice is tailor-made for sports broadcasting. It's crazy.
It is, and he's got a bright future, Viggs. He does a lot of baseball, a lot of volleyball. He does so much. Bright future for him.
He's like the PJ Fleck of radio. He's just like that personality, that voice, that perspective all the time. Can't turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
Can't turn off the charm. Viggs, we did have a tweet earlier asking about Teddy Townsend. What's his injury? Things like that. We don't really know much on his injury. We've heard that he's skating, maybe an upper body injury. So we don't really have any answers on that, do we?
Yep, not really. At the media scrum today, there were some people asking questions about him and what's going on, and Bob's just kind of saying he doesn't want to talk about what the injury is and anything about that. Just that he's skating. They hope to have him back. It's a little bit up to the doctors to clear guys. Mason Moe got injured earlier in the year. Leo Gruba got injured of the year. The trainers cleared those guys. They're back playing. Teddy, I think, is still a little bit of ways away from joining the lineup.
So I wish we knew. We just don't. Viggs, I have a couple notes here. I noticed you reposted my picture of Leo Gruba when he was just screaming after scoring his goal on Saturday night. And you said he is just such a Minnesota guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's all in with this team. He's got this attitude where, he wants to make an impact this year. Talking to August Falloon, who was his roommate last year, he's like, Leo dedicated himself this offseason like nobody else. He was really strict on his diet. He cut like 6% off his body fat. He dropped like 10 pounds. He knew to make an impact at this level, he had to be quicker, leaner, more explosive, because he was able to see a lot of opportunities, but he just deferred a lot last year. So he wanted to be in position to be more active and make more plays. And so for him to get that goal the other night, I think is really important for his confidence. I think he's a player that needs a few good things to go his way for his game to grow. And, that's an encouraging sign for him. And, he's getting some power play opportunities here and there. And, there's a huge opportunity for him on this roster. With all those question marks at D, Leo Gruba is something that the coaching staff wants to see blossom. They want to see him embody that role and really start to be a point producer for them, because I don't know if Cal Thomas is a point producing D. He's a very steady guy. He's great on the penalty kill. Luke Middlestad, I think, is showing that role, especially on that first power play. But I think Leo Gruba is that guy who they really want to see shine this year.
And yes, it wasn't a power play goal, Viggs, but it was just like one or two. I mean, it was the end of the power play, so it was essentially a power play goal.
Yeah.
About Leo Gruba's goal, Eric, you don't see it very often that a rebound comes straight back to a player. So he just kind of walked around the defenseman that tried to block it.
Mm-hmm.
But also a lot of times you don't see players following up their shot like a basketball player would follow his own shot. Yeah. I thought that was kind of unique on that play.
Yeah. Unique, good instincts. He had the space that he knew he could win a puck race, because that's a dicey one for a defenseman, right? If it gets poked by you, now it's going the other way. Could be an odd man rush, especially if there's a jack in the box, right? So, yeah, I mean, why not? Dennis Rodman of Gopher hockey. But I love it. But to Vig's point, I mean, that's potentially a sign of some growth and some confidence, and willing to dive deeper in the offensive zone and take a few chances that he maybe wasn't comfortable with as a freshman. And they're going to need him and Luke for sure to provide some points from the back end, because it's to be determined if others can. But those two can, so they're going to need to put up some points to make this thing go.
Well, and you just look at some of the better Gopher defensemen the last couple of years, like Renzel and Lacombe. They were very comfortable knowing when to jump up and when to go chase offense in the offensive zone. And I think that's a confidence thing for players, and also knowing that the teammates around them are going to allow them to do that and cover for them. So I think that takes a little bit of trust as well. So we always say, you don't touch the stove when the coach tells you no. You don't touch the stove when you've done it before and you say, I can't do that, but maybe I can grab something next to the stove.
Yeah. It's a TOI thing too, right? Like if you're playing mid to high 20s in minutes, you are comfortable, you're feeling confident in your ability to, take a few more chances, because you are likely to get out and continue to get a regular shift. Whereas if you're a freshman playing mid-teens and you're the fifth or sixth defenseman, a lot of times the mentality is like, let's just not screw this up. Like, I'm out here to provide defense. I'm out here to not get scored on. I'm out here to give Renzel a rest so he can score next shift. But now I'm the guy who's playing high 20 minutes, and I'm the guy who needs to score, so I'm going to go make it happen. So it's a little bit of a mentality shift too.
Viggs, honestly, I don't think he would have followed up his shot, last year. Because it is a risky play. There is a guy just coming out of the box. If it does go the other way, it's dangerous. It's obviously a big confidence boost, and I'm not even sure how he got it past. There was quite a few bodies there, and he went clean into the goal.
He's got the vision. You just got to have a little confidence to go with it, apparently.
Definitely interesting. Well, we need to get into this week's opponent, but before we do that, we need to talk about our favorite Cub Foods, Viggs.
That's right.
Yeah. Sorry.
You kind of like threw it up, and I was waiting for it to come down. So I got it now. And Cubs got you covered too. I was just down at my Quarry Cub this week. I got some pumpkin bread loaf. It was delicious. The bakeries at Cubs are awesome. If you want fresh picked apples, pumpkin spice, loaf like I got, Cubs your one-stop shop for that stuff. And they're one of us. They support this podcast. They're on PJ Flex headset. They sponsor the Wild on 7th podcast. They support all of us. So swing by your local Cub, stock up on your seasonal favorites, because nothing says fall in Minnesota like comfort food from Cub. Cub, shop happy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off there, Viggs. This is live. This is how we do it.
You just need more TOI, Drew.
He's a 16-year vet now? We don't have many moments like that anymore.
Do you guys track the number of podcasts that you've done?
This is 291.
291.
And we've had a couple others. Like, I haven't counted some of the summer shows and some of the, I think we did some post-game shows in Tampa and things like that. But
and I was in the minor leagues for the first couple seasons as well.
Yeah, so. Actually, I think you were on season 2.
Yeah.
Who missed
was
one
on season 1?
Me, Ryan Cardinal, and Hammy, Scott Hamilton.
Right on.
And Hammy kind of retired a couple of years ago. He just felt his connections with Gopher hockey. A certain assistant coach wasn't there anymore, and he didn't feel he had the insights he used to have. So,
sure.
And Ryan Cardinal, he got a job with the Vikings. He's been doing media for the Vikings for quite a while now. He used to travel with his team every week. I think he's more homebound now because he's got kids. But like I said, Viggs came on the second year, and I mean, there's sometimes he broadcasted from where, Viggs?
The Honda Civic in the parking lot because I had a newborn in the condo and not a lot of space in a 900 square foot condo to do a podcast and have a baby and a spouse. So, we had to get creative some years.
I love the dedication.
I could still get the Wi-Fi from the Civic in the parking lot.
That's impressive,
That was
honestly.
amazing.
You had to have some podcasts with terrible connection. There's no way you didn't have a clean slate the whole time, right?
Yeah, we've done fairly well, haven't we, Biggs?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, because we didn't start doing it live until like season 3 or 4. I'm not really sure, because we used to do at least audio live.
Sure.
On this program called Mixler, and we could at least do the audio, and people could listen in, and we could check, because we've got the comments here. We love the interactivity of people and be able to take questions live. So we've been live for, I want to say, more than 10 years at least, probably longer.
Here's a question for you guys that my wife asked me today that I didn't know the answer to. How many people do you think listen to the radio broadcasts of the games?
I'm not really sure that. I know
you could
Viggs
tell me
does.
like 18 different numbers, and I'd say, yeah, okay, well, that sounds right. Like, I have no idea.
Well, that's just it, because it's not just radio anymore. I'd say a lot of people are doing the stream. Viggs, you do the stream, don't you?
You can go to gophersports.com and the schedule or whatever, and you click the link.
Yep.
You go to the iHeartMedia app and you can get it that way. I often will have that at the arena and kind of listen on delay to catch up, because sometimes
a little bit.
Sometimes the Gopher staff doesn't give us all the information like they do the radio and TV guys.
They do sneak stuff to the radio guys.
Like, I think that when Leo Grubo went down in the opening night, he went over to the TV and it's like, Leo's out for the game. He goes to Wally, Leo's out for the game. I send a little note and they're like, he's not in there right now.
I just happened to be there shooting right next to Wally, and I think Tanner was calling that game. So I heard that, but I'm not going to say anything because that's not for me to say.
You're respectful.
Yep.
You just want to stay out of trouble most of the time. For people who listen, iHeart has quite a long delay. It's sometimes a minute and a half or more. There is the varsity, was it the Varsity Sports app? There's a
varsity was a little quicker, yeah.
Varsity will be a little quicker. So if you're annoyed by it, it's like maybe sometimes 30 to 45 seconds. It just depends, but that's a good way as well. And of course, the radio will be 6, 7, 10 seconds, because it has to go back to,
even with TV,
has to go back to wherever in Missouri and then broadcast back or whatever all that stuff is. So. Why? I'm looking. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Mote. You've been inspired us the last week. We're trying to get those subscribers up on YouTube. Obviously, we're live there right now. I've been trying to put more content out, from just me showing a quick clip at practice Friday afternoon to, I think I did a little pregame thing about how the Gophers are going to do Saturday night. We tried to take clips from this podcast, put it on, YouTube Shorts, as well as, just clips from, interviews during the post game. We're trying to build it, Viggs. We're trying to build it.
That's right. We appreciate all you come along for the ride.
You should do a day in the life game day edition of Jupe and Viggs. Post that in between the glass, snapping shots.
Oh gosh,
up in the press box.
I think it's between the glass. You would have way too much editing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I did a little clip of just Javon Morris, his very first goal, of him just going right by the camera. Knock your phone's off. Right by the camera. It had like 5,000 views, which is pretty high for content, for us. And
I like it
just a few days.
Schierhorn. I think we'll have to embrace that at some point. We'll have to workshop it a little bit. Maybe we'll talk about it in OT and get some ideas. Maybe comment.
I bet you guys. I bet the subscribers on YouTube would love to see what it's like up in the press box, and I don't know, rolling through the locker room into the press room or whatever.
Press box would be easier. Ice level, it'd be a lot of, well, you know what happens down. Well, actually, you don't. You're in goal. You don't hear
really. Yeah, I don't.
Hey, there were times where Pat Michelotti broadcasted as the third guy on radio from the box.
See, I kind of like that. I like that because you can give a more authentic feel for what's going on at ice level, or maybe how the teams are feeling and reacting at various points of the game. But on the flip side of it, when I'm doing radio, I'm often kind of looking at Wally out of the corner of my eye to see when I can jump in and speak, and I could see how that could get all messed up when you're not kind of right next to each other.
I think what they did, it was basically, it was Frank and Wally in the booth, and they would just kind of go down to him because
call down.
Yeah, you couldn't keep that mic live. I mean,
no.
Well, you could for streaming, because technically there's no FCC when it comes to streaming, but obviously their radio portion would be a little different.
Yep.
I've had some videos, players going by and you hear somebody just go F&A. I'm like, well, I guess I can't use that video because, you shouldn't be putting that stuff out. But
yeah,
I've heard some of them a little bit under their breath. It wasn't loud enough and I let that go. But
yeah,
it's fun. It'd be interesting, because, Viggs is up in the booth. He's listening. He's talking to people. You're making things happen up there, Viggs, aren't you?
That's right. I've just brainstormed myself. We got to do it at the regional.
Oh,
because at the regionals are fun for like a day in the life, and usually we can focus. My youth hockey coaching will be done by then. I'll have more time. There's always lots of great people at regionals, other media, other scouts, other coaches and stuff. I think that's our goal. So stay tuned.
Sioux Falls.
Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, we'll prep that up.
Sioux Falls. I think that's a good idea, Viggs. I like the way you're thinking. UMD coming in this weekend, Viggs. Boy, yes, they have been playing lesser competition. So what? That first line is deadly.
Yeah, and a Scott Sandelin team that's successful, the other lines will be hard to play against. That is usually UMD hockey, is they have a couple really talented scorers who are enabled to play at a high level, and the rest of the team is hard and structured and chippy and in your face. And the way the Bulldogs have been down the last couple of years, getting off to the start that they've gotten off to will probably prop them up a little bit and be ready to go this weekend. I think Mary G should be an interesting arena with them coming to town. I think one thing about the Bulldogs, they do have really good goaltending this year too. Gajan in net is a highly thought after tender. So I think Minnesota have their hands full there. And, we haven't seen Minnesota play consistently. So playing against a team like Duluth, where, the idea for that roster usually is hard to play against consistently, that can lead to problems for Minnesota sometimes.
Well, since I see this, let's ask the goalie that Eric, who gets start and goal from Dale Beers.
Yeah, I mean, I think you probably start Luca, right? At this point, I mean, don't get me wrong, Eric played great against Boston College. So it's not that you necessarily toss him aside yet, but I mean, you kind of got to run with the hot hand because, quite frankly, neither of them are really proven commodities yet. So I don't know if either one has the workload or the resume to warrant sticking with a guy for an extended period of time without a good run, I guess. I'm guessing Bob's going to flip-flop them depending on how they play until one emerges, kind of like they did last year. Honestly, that's typically how he does it, and generally how everyone does it when you don't know what you got. But you got to reward good play, and Luka played good enough to get the win, and he only let in one goal last Saturday. So why not start him again Friday?
And one other thing, Nathan Airy didn't practice today. So
good scoop.
That gives a little edge to Luka as well.
Is it injury or sickness?
Don't say
didn't practice.
Then it'll go around the whole.
Yeah.
Well, you know what it's like.
I've been to that movie. I remember, God, we were living in the house. So it must have been my junior year we had a game against Michigan and there was a bug going through the whole team, and it was hitting people like a ton of bricks. It was fast, but it was hitting people. And it was going through the whole team all week. And I lived with Junior Gates at the time, and he woke up fine. And by 2 p.m., it was not good. And not to get graphic, it was coming out of both ends. And he was like, I just can't play. And we had 4 guys like that for that weekend. And so when you're all living together and you're all eating meals together and you're showering together and you're sharing water bottles, it can get bad fast.
Well, let's hope it's not that for Ari.
Yeah.
So Ari and Townsend were the
it's
only
that.
players missing today. Everybody else looked fine for the skate. It was also one of those events where the Gophers opened up practice to some of their supporters. So there were a bunch of fans in the building today watching practice.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm not the only person this time who got that kind of information. There are probably another 100 or so faithful
Nice.
and some GPL podcast listeners there, and they saw that as well. So
Right on.
Viggs, well, we definitely know Duluth's going to remember what Minnesota did up there last year. 7-5 victory, which was a crazy Friday night, and a 5-1 victory for the sweep. They're going to remember that.
yeah, last year was a tough year for Duluth hockey. I think they just had a
Injuries,
lot
yeah.
of things going on, injuries, some kind of departures from their program. Hobie Baker winner left that Ike Howard that they probably were counting on to be back in terms of their roster construction. And just, Scott Sandelin doesn't love the portal as much as some of the other coaches.
Mhm.
So I think that maybe kind of hurt them at times, and just some challenging times. Sandelin had his hip surgery that he had to go through. So there was that time where he wasn't on the ice really to coach as much as he wanted. So just some struggles. And I think Sandelin feels like his team's back in a good position this year, and this will be their first real measuring stick. So I think you're going to see a big effort from the Bulldogs, and Minnesota's going to have to match that. As Bob says, they've got a long list of enemies, and they're playing a lot of them this year. And they all have the big target on the M, and they want to take their shot.
Yeah, and like Max is saying here, Mr. Max Plant was missing last year. So we'll see how it goes this year. Eric, give me your prediction on the weekend.
I mean, with what we've seen so far, I don't know how I couldn't go with a split. I'm going to go lose Friday, win Saturday, coming off a high at Nodak on Friday. Might be hard to replicate the energy. Duluth's playing well, but again, you said it. They haven't played the sexiest schedule, but they've taken care of
But
business.
they definitely ramped their game up for Minnesota. It's a rivalry for them.
No doubt. But the thing is if they can corral that top line, I mean, that top line has more than half their goals, right? And so they're not getting a lot of scoring from other people. So assuming they can contain them to an extent, I would think that the Gophers have more depth and would have the upper hand as long as those guys don't run the show. So either way, I mean, with the lack of consistency right now and still feeling it out, I mean, there's 6 games in, I'm going to say split.
Okay, before your prediction, Viggs, how would Minnesota shut them down?
I think we're going to see a lot of Luke Middlestat and Cal Thomas again. That's a recipe that Minnesota can lean on, matching those guys. One of them on the ice every time Minnesota-Duluth's top line is out there, and having those guys have that defensive focus. Maybe putting Jimmy Clark and John Middlestat exclusively on those guys too, where you just always have kind of a checking line going out against them, looking to, stall, put bodies on them, create momentum changes, make them play defense. And then you have your skilled lines get out there looking for more offense. Your Paulson line, your Ludke line, they're looking for a different kind of shifts out there. So I think that's something I would maybe look for out of Minnesota to match up with Minnesota-Duluth this weekend and really focus on making someone else beat you.
I'm looking at Cal Thomas's +3 right now for D. The second is Rombach. The third is Gruba. Rombach at +3, Gruba +2. So they're Rombach, everyone's like, oh, he had a bad game. Well, he's +3 right now, so it's hard to argue with those numbers.
I always think that bigger players can take a lot of shots from fans because they move one stride a lot, and when they're out of position, it's usually difficult for them to get back into position.
Yeah.
But when you have players that have that kind of length and that kind of size, as long as they stay in the good parts of the ice and force the team to the bad parts of the ice, they can kind of dictate the way a game's played. And so I think just Rombach getting comfortable in that and learning where to make the impacts is going to be huge for his learning experience. And having guys like Cal Thomas to help him through that is going to be huge for his development.
So what's your prediction?
I've got a sweep this weekend for the Gophers.
Oh,
I think they're learning some lessons
Heck.
with how their effort on Friday night can dictate the way a weekend goes. I think the other thing is Minnesota-Duluth is going to see a totally different pace this weekend than they've seen all season.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that with some Gopher teams where they don't play a very difficult schedule and all of a sudden they play a ranked team and the mistakes come out because you're just not used to that pace. You're not used to that pressure. It can be a difference maker. And I feel like Minnesota at this point of their season, they're ready to maybe put 2 games back to back. I do think maybe we see Luka get a weekend. The coaching staff wanted to see Ari get a weekend. Maybe if Luka plays well on Friday, he gets Saturday as well, especially with Ari missing practice today. So opportunity for him to get some momentum as well.
All right.
And I really like the Gopher top power play. With Ludke on there, they look really dynamic with him as that bumper. And they just were moving the puck so well against North Dakota. And I've seen it continue in practice. They just look really comfortable together.
All right. I'm going to pick sweep as well. I was kind of thinking split earlier, but you convinced me, Vigs. You got me on the Mote bandwagon there, Taylor Kearns. So that makes Mote happy. What else we got work going on this week, Vigs? So you went to media today. It was good, except for Ari not playing.
Except for Ari not playing and Townsend still being slow to come back. I think having Leo Gruba have a good week, that's good for his confidence. And I think having that power play unit looking like they're clicking and the penalty kill unit looking like they're clicking bodes well for Minnesota going forward.
All right. Eric, thanks for coming on again, man. You ready for some overtime?
Yeah, let's do it.
Definitely got to do it here. Let's go. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the GPL podcast. We'll be back next week for the big Badger series in Madtown with, of course, our guest will be Todd Molesky. And then, who knows? I love that Badger weekend. I'm still considering going down there. We'll have to see. But for the rest of you, either watching live or on YouTube, stay tuned for overtime. But the rest of you will catch you next week on the GPL podcast. If you are watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and get notified each time we go live or post a video. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please rate our show and leave a review. For those of you watching live, you know what's next. It's Vigo's Beverage of the Week. It's time for overtime.
All right, this week, little bent paddle Imperial Stout, 9.2%. This is from 2024. Looking forward here.
Would you qualify this as a loaf of bread?
That is a loaf of bread. Coffee.
Cheers.
It does kind of look like a little frothy coffee there.
Espresso.
Delicious, malty, dark. Very good. A little nervous about my pull tab white Unreal shirt, getting
Gotta
a
be
little
careful
out on it, but when
Unreal.
Kinger got this for us, I was just like, white. I don't know if that's the ideal color for me, but
I need to get one of those.
gotta rep it. Gotta rep it. Maybe I can get you a gray one.
Geeks, have you ever been to Waldman Brewery in St. Paul?
I have not been to Waldman Brewing.
I feel like you'd like that.
This is kind of one of your places now?
No, I just went there for the first time last week, and it's like a traditional German beer garden. And they've got a bunch of dark stouts that feels like they're right up your alley.
I will have to make a night of that one of these days.
Yeah.
It's been a little hard. I've got the 11 and 13-year-old, keeping me honest.
Yep.
So
next wild game
for sure.
Yep.
Gosh, I don't remember the last time I attended a Wild game.
Did they change the naming on the stadium for this year? I don't even know that. They did. It's Treasure Island.
Grand Casino. Another gambling institution.
Yeah.
Where have you been, man? That's been out for a while. You've been in Alaska, haven't you? You've been just in another world.
I did, but I just I don't really follow the Wild. I mean, I do, like,
I'm with you.
kind of, but honestly, being from Alaska, we don't have a team, so I never latched onto one. I was an Avs fan growing up because I loved Patrick Waugh. But as I grew up, that kind of faded a little bit, and now I just track my buddies, and like tonight, Novak, Lindgren, and Middlestat were all playing, so I was kind of shifting through their games. But other than that, the Wild don't do it for me. Not that I think they're as boring as everyone always says they are. It's just I don't have an allegiance to them, so I'm not dialed in.
I feel like the NHL as a whole can be challenging at times because it's such a strict league with disciplined play and structure and systems that you can have a lot of nights where 2/3 of the game can be very much chip, breakout, chip, change.
Yeah, nothing.
It can be very, very structured. It's kind of like the Rangers Wild game this week. It's 2-1, and I feel like there were probably 5 or 6 scoring chances in the whole game.
Right. Yeah. And or for, like, to your point, if I'm going to watch a team that I'm not rooting for an individual on, I'll try to throw on the Maple Leafs, which they've gotten a little less run and gun in the last couple of years since Berube got there, but they still got, when they did have him, they had Marner, they have Matthews, they have Nylander, and they typically played like the exciting, in the NHL terms, 4-3 game kind of thing. But yeah, so you're totally right. Like, I just don't have that much interest in watching a 2-1 game. That's why it's so much better to watch the Gophers than the NHL, in my opinion.
Well, that's where our college love kind of comes from, though. It comes from, especially around here. Back in the day, like kids from my high school would go play for the Gophers, and then I'd follow the Gophers, and then not many of them at the time would move on to the NHL, so I just kind of stuck with the Gophers, and then you start to get there. I remember that guy at the high school tournament. I remember that guy, and then they're coming in, so it's kind of very provincial here. That it just kind of moves up the chain, and that kid went to Duluth instead. I hate that kid, and type of stuff, and like you said, Viggs, college hockey is full of mistakes. It's just all over the place, but that's what makes it so fun.
Yeah, and that's what attracts me to the game. That's why I love like the World Junior Tournament, and especially like a team like Minnesota. There's always just so much skill that's allowed to play that game, and they haven't beaten it out of them yet. So like having a player like LJ Mooney on this year's team is so fun to watch because they don't put the restrictor plates on him. They're letting him go and figure it out and make an impact. And I think that's one of the reasons Motzko is such a fun coach at Minnesota, is because he's got that patience. He coaches offense all the time. Some of the comments coming out of the World Junior Summer Showcase, they're just like, oh my God, this guy runs like a captain's practice. Wants to see offense and skill and chemistry. He's not out there yelling at you all the time about do this, do that, do this. He lets you play and be creative. And I think that's a fun thing for the fans to watch. I know that some fans probably get a little frustrated sometimes at some of the defensive shortcomings in Minnesota, but there's a couple ways to bake a cake.
There were so many good comments during the show. I just couldn't bring them all up. Just gonna kind of quickly go through that. We did the goal.
Have you guys watched Penn State much?
I've watched 4 of their games kind of in fast forward just to see what's going on with McKenna.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is going to come off as like a Minnesota fan type thing, but like he is kind of similar to Mooney sometimes in the way he's playing the game. He's a little bit on the perimeter and he's a little bit get the puck on my stick and I'll make plays happen, but he's not a player who like holds onto the puck in traffic or goes and wins 50-50 battles. And he's not like a super play driver as long as the other team doesn't let him get in transition.
Mm-hmm.
You looked at guys like Fantilli and Celebrini, like those guys just drove play shift after shift, where they were dominating, winning pucks, winning possession, creating multiple chances. McKenna seems to like flash a lot, and he's obviously very, very highly skilled, and he's got a great shot. He's got great vision, but I just don't know if he's going to have the type of season like a Fantilli or Celebrini in college because of his style.
Yeah.
And Penn State's got other players who are pretty good. So I think until he learns how to fit in with some of that stuff, you're not going to see an 80, 90-point season. I just don't think it's going to happen like some people were maybe expecting.
That's how I felt with I remember my first game, the first Gopher game that I watched live was the 2020, whatever Nyes' freshman year was, and they were in Mercyhurst. And I remember the whole game, he drove the bus the entire game. He was all over the place. He was winning battles in the corner. He was making skill plays on the perimeter. And I was like, holy smokes, this kid is good. And to your point, he was the one making plays happen without the puck in every area of the ice. And so, it's just kind of a different beast than someone who needs some help, because he didn't need anyone's help. He was going to do it with or without anyone.
Yep. And I think he made it pretty easy for some other line mates to pull off plays. What's going on there behind you, Eric?
My many leather-bound books.
Oh, shoot.
Let's see. What is my favorite? Boy.
Hi, Sam. How you doing?
Probably Into Thin Air, Sam. Or Boys in the Boat. Boys in the Boat's probably my favorite. If you guys have read that one. It's a great movie, too, by the way. Sam could learn a thing or two about perseverance and work ethic from that book.
What about you, Viggs? What's behind you? Are those like just photo albums?
No, those are books. I'm just trying to think if I've got one. I've got a stack of books here, and Moneyball is on this stack.
Really?
That's one of my favorites. Ball 4 is in here. That's also one of my favorite books. So those are 2 of them over here. I mean, I've got my literature over there. Angela's Ashes is one of my favorites there for real literature, but English major at college,
I don't have any books back here. Got photos of my kids. Other photos.
Now, do you have TVs mounted above your little setup here? Is that where the couch comes into play? This is the cave where you watch games?
This is where I do watch games. Here, give me a second here. See if I can maximize this. Oops. See if I hit this button, it kind of shows you where the TV is.
Oh, right on.
So
that's a good setup.
Yeah, it's nice. It's not a big room, but it's a 65-inch TV. So
just an egregiously big TV for the room.
kind of, because you see how far the speaker is away from it.
Yeah,
that's the same on the other side, and then that's the wall there for me. Well, you see the wall; it's right here.
Yeah.
And then there's a door over there, so this wall is obviously closed. But yeah, but there's the front sound. There's the subwoofer underneath here, and yeah, I don't know if you can catch the speakers on this one. There's some surround speakers, and you can see them on the ceiling there. And there's my
Faber has a mural on your wall, but I don't.
I took that picture. I was thinking of actually taking the picture of the Ohio State guy going flying over you.
I love it
Because I've got that one somewhere. You just, when you go down, he goes, because I've seen it, a lot of people have seen it, the video from the other angle, but I'm in the photo box. So I was at the other angle.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I really like that picture of Faber. And so I'm like, I tried a new, it's printed on PVC. So it's a little different. So.
Right on.
Don't worry, Schierhorn. There's no Ramsey photos in there either.
Yeah, I would be incredibly offended. You should have you should
I
have
should
a
get one in
ranking
flips.
wall.
So I could just put one in 1 week. It's Ramsey, 1 week it's you.
You should have just a live ranking. Whoever has the most appearances gets the picture at the top, and then it ranks down to the bottom in line.
Let me see if I could bring that up. See who's got the. Well, I know who's got the most appearances. It's still Molesky right now.
I was going to say one of these insiders or beat reporters, I guess would probably be the better term, has to have just a million.
Todd's been on a lot.
He has, because we play Wisconsin a lot.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Second here, I can see if I can bring it up here. Let's get rid of this old. Remove that.
Were you guys fired up when they won in a shootout?
Everybody was. Just the team was, and
I was mainly just happy for the kids, the way they reacted to it. I thought that was the fun thing because they did celebrate pretty hard on the post game. Look at that, Todd's up there.
Todd is number one. Captain, there's Mazzocco. Got Micheletti at 8. Jess Myers, Schloss, Cove. There, look at that. It lists you above him.
Yeah,
probably because it does the alphabetical thing.
Of course. That's awesome.
Most recent. It's like a scorecard playoff in golf.
Zoom in a little bit better there.
Yeah, there you go. 17. That might not be top.
Well,
I guess Cappy's at 16.
Cappy could, and Todd would have had a little bit more of a lead, but that one season he wasn't covering. They took him off the beat, and he had to cover Badger basketball or something really weird like that. So
yeah, there was one weekend where he had to go out to Penn State, and because of the travel, he couldn't be on the show. I think for one of those, and
yeah, he is the man.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Jupe, that TV would be good for the multi-view. I was watching a little ESPN Plus, and I had the Maine Quinnipiac game on, and I think I had UConn on for a game, and somebody else.
I had it. I didn't have the multi-view going up the other night, but I was. What was it? Was it Thursday nights? I think Michigan played and Wisconsin played on BTN or the BTN B1G Plus, BTN Plus, whatever. And yeah, I know you can
game this weekend. Oh, sorry, I mean interrupt.
I'm not sure. I might go Friday and not go Saturday. I'm not sure yet.
I think Friday is on my radar. My Pee-wee team, we have our first game of the year on Saturday.
Oh.
Big 8:30 tilt prime time. So
that's kind of late for kids.
It's kind of late. So we have an issue getting solo ice in Northeast.
Oh, ice is
so we do a lot of shared ice so we can hit our ice time goals that we want to have.
Yeah.
Because mainly we want to get the kids on the ice 4 or 5 times a week as much as we can. So with the amount of ice we get, solo ice is pretty challenging for us. So we've got this 8:30 slot.
That's everyone though. I'm actually shocked by that. That's one of my new learnings I've had in being involved in some of these different associations with coaching or evaluating is that no one has enough ice, and the amount of teams that have to go basically split ice the whole year is shocking to me in Minnesota. But I did hear that Wayzata's planning on building a new rink in the parking lot of Pick. I have a fourth.
That'd be good for them. They are a massive association. So.
Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. They have.
Well, it's just, I mean, but think of it. It's because, you know, an entire town like Plymouth doesn't have a high school, or it's so weird. Wayzata's not a big place, Vigs.
They have a lot of hockey players.
They do have a lot.
Well, that's
I think they have like 7 Pee Wee teams.
Yeah, they have 10 Bantam teams.
Yeah.
Where are they taking from, though? Are they taking from, isn't it Plymouth and like part of Golden Valley or something like that? Or
I don't
remember.
That I don't know, but it's definitely Plymouth for sure.
Yeah. But I've got a Wayzata on our
Yeah.
schedule because they all that ice they have. So, but I do think with youth hockey, I am all about station-based practices. You would like to have a couple. It's almost like you want to have a combined practice with another equivalent age team, so you just can run full ice drills with more kids on the ice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I think for the most part, a lot of cross ice, small area games is great for development. You know, it's more touches and more competition and more battles and more thinking. On the big ice, you know, the best skaters usually pull away pretty quick. Yeah, they can go through everybody. So the full ice is good for them.
Yeah, it's like the Scandinavian model, right? The Finns and the Swedes, they don't go full ice until way late.
Yep. I always like to say, like, I want my half of the ice to have to be resurfaced, you know, every inch effectively to show that we had a good practice.
Sure.
I want all that ice used up during our skate. Sometimes you get a full ice, you're going to have pockets of the ice that don't really need a Zamboni.
Yeah. Yep.
So, Vigs, it was interesting this weekend. One of the referees was one of our referees in the Super Rink League. So a guy used to ref us. That used to ref us quite often, not all the time, but enough. Was one of the referees. He was the darker haired guy, making a lot of bad calls this weekend. And he was, and the thing is, you know, we talk to some of these refs, you know, in the Big Ten because, you know, they're just normal guys. This guy, I remember him kind of being a dick in the Super Rink. So I'm like, it wasn't the greatest.
Oh,
find it.
You've got me Googling now.
Oh, I'm trying to remember who were the two refs this weekend. It wasn't Sterling. It was the other guy.
It was so Schmidt and Egan.
Brandon Schmidt. Let me see.
Brandon Schmidt and Sterling Egan.
Brandon Schmidt. Oh, I'm going to type in hockey on that one. That's a common name.
You don't
That's
have
not
photos.
him in the That's not him in the photo.
You don't have photos of either of them on the GPL officials page.
Well, it's because they're not Big Ten officials.
Well, you got listed under there.
Do I really?
Yeah, they're listed. They're both listed on there as guys who have ref games.
Well, they probably was moved around.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't even. If I would have known, I probably would have got some decent photos of them. Oh well, what do you do? I'm sure I can find something here. Gosh, didn't I have one of them? I might have some photos of them. Did I keep them? That's a good question.
Next time.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I didn't keep them. Oh well, but it was interesting. I knew he was a ref in our league, and just like the referee official that we see at regional sometimes used to be a ref in the Super Rink League for us. An older guy, but he was a fun guy.
He was the best ref at dropping a puck of anyone I've ever had in a men's league game. Every time it was flat.
Crisp and flat
every time. And after every game, I'd be like, God, you dropped the puck like no other ref I've ever seen, man. Keep it going. You can ref my game anytime.
I would love to know penalties called by conference officials. NCHC calls are out of control. You know what the fans were ticked off a lot about this weekend, Max? The linesman not dropping the damn puck on just normal faceoffs. It was ridiculous. Fans are booing him. I was booing him even. I'm like, I mean, you know, sometimes you get the egos of the referees, blah, blah, blah. But when a linesman's just like, they just can't get, just drop the damn puck. I mean,
there's one in particular that we used to always have. There was a ref that had the biggest ego of all time and the shortest fuse. And he was the worst ref. Because it felt like we had the same refs every weekend.
You get a lot of same linesmen a lot.
Yeah, the linesmen are great because it's tough to make bad calls as linemen, so it's easy to like them. But he didn't wear a face shield. He had kind of rosy cheeks, shorter guy, black hair, and I'm picturing I would never know his name because I didn't know any of their names, but he was horrible. And I bet he's still reffing, honestly, because I feel like when I watch TV and see the Big Ten games, I'm like, oh yeah, we have that guy, and we have that guy.
Let's bring it up. I've got a list of our Big Ten officials. I don't have photos of everybody though. I'm still working on it. So let me. I
apologize to trash this guy's name, but he was just.
So what do we got?
You do have a roster.
We do. Oh yeah, we do. Of course we do. Let me see here. So Bruggeman, I like Bruggeman. He's the guy. He's newer to the league. Not said newer, but 5 years. He had a lot of times he had the mullet going. He had the hair flying out the back. Pakmara here. Pakmara's been around a while.
Yeah. I didn't love him, but Bruggeman was a goalie coach at one of the first ever goalie camps I ever went to.
Really?
Yeah, at Shattuck. It's so funny. I remember seeing him because he started reffing. God, was he reffing me in the USHL? I can't remember. He might have been, but for sure towards the end of my college days. And I remember, I was like, is that you? You were like in high school when you were coaching me. It's kind of funny.
I like Bruggeman. He's a good guy. Pakmara, I've never met.
It's that guy. It's Colin Cronforst.
Oh,
that guy.
I like Colin.
Yeah, but honestly, now that you show Pakmara, he might have been disliked by us more than.
Cronforst has done a lot of the big games, a lot of the Big Ten championships in recent years. Viggs, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He came over and talked to me like I want to say during the Notre Dame series last year, the playoff. He came over and talked to me just before the game warmups, and someone got a picture of me just sitting there kind of BSing with him as you know he stopped over, and he's like, and they're like, oh, you know, chatting with the enemy, huh? I'm like, a lot of these guys are just normal dudes.
Yeah, like he's worked a lot of the Big Ten championship games the last 5 years.
Yeah, you've got these numbers here.
Yeah,
Cronforst.
So
that's a championship game. Hey, he's done all of them. He's done that quite a bit of them.
Schierhorn is by far and away the best. The linesman.
Yeah, he's
drink of water.
Yep.
I would like to know how tall he is.
He's a great human. I felt like he did every single one of my games in Muskegon. And then as soon as I went to college, felt like every single one of my games in college.
I think I've got photos of Schierhorn going back to 2013 in the Big Ten, like that first year of the Big Ten.
Sure.
He is out right now. He broke his ankle doing some wild practice scrimmages or something like that. I'm not sure what happened. Because I noticed after like week 2, I'm like,
Jess told us that.
Jess did tell us that, but I had just heard it. I heard it at the same time. I heard it that evening from, I think it was from who was it? Oh, Gabe. I heard it from Gabe right here. Gabe told me that he's out. He's hoping to be back in November.
Yeah, because I think Jess said he finished the game.
Oh yeah,
he kept reffing with a broken ankle. And then afterwards got it looked at and they put him in a boot. To rest it for a while.
Yeah.
I think Sean Fernandez on this list, Gopher Game Notes had noted that the Gophers were like 0-6 for a while with him reffing games.
Yes.
A lot of penalties against the Gophers.
Yes. Sean Fernandez was not popular. And Nicholas Bradshaw used to do a ton of games. People remember him because of his, his Movember. He's actually gone on. I think he did one ref game last year for Minnesota, but he's gone on to become a full-time ref in the CCHA. So not a linesman anymore. And he did the high school hockey championship game last year, Nicholas Bradshaw. So yeah, we've had this page up for a little while. I'm still collecting images. It's tough because, we get a lot of repeats, so I don't get their photos. I've got a couple more photos I want to put in here because I've gotten some since then.
It certainly feels like certain refs are more local to Minnesota
for sure
versus, the Northeast and stuff. So,
especially with linesmen. Yes.
Yeah.
I know you'll see Schierhorn will go to Wisconsin a lot. And sometimes Penn State, because I don't think Penn State has a lot of ref or linesmen. Cronforce is out of Chicago. So,
do these guys have other jobs?
Mm-hmm.
They do, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are they taking off? I mean, I guess if you're local, you might not necessarily have to, but I mean, for a lot of them, how many Fridays do you have to take off?
Quite a few, because I think they have to come in Thursday night, right? So,
yeah.
Be curious to
definitely
hear
commitment.
what these guys do.
Gosh, years ago, I heard, I think it was Gensel on the bench saying, "We're paying you guys $400 a night, and you're making these kind of calls." So back, that was 10 years ago. So they're making good money, probably getting expenses paid too. So,
yeah.
For all I know, that could have been Gensel just BSing, but I'm guessing they get good money.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. They should, right?
I mean, it's a huge commitment. And as Schloss was writing about, the health coverage wasn't provided by the conferences either. They're independent contractors for all this stuff.
And this has affected a recently retired referee who got injured in a Gopher game by Leo Gruba. While Leo Gruba was checked and his stick went right into his face. And the league has not reimbursed him yet.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. So he's trying to fight that. So not good. Not good.
No.
Eric, any favorite interactions with any refs over the years that you look back upon fondly?
Kind of similar to the point I was making earlier on not showboating as a goalie. I tried to not get involved with the refs just because, I don't know, my whole goal the whole time was to try to just stay as even keel as possible, because I found you find out so many things in juniors, right? Because you play so many games that it's really good. It teaches you how you need to prepare, how to get the best out of your game, because you just get so many reps at it. And that's where I found that I started juniors. I was drinking coffee before games, but then I get so jittery, right? And I'm I don't play good when I'm jittery, because then I'm rushing and I'm kind of spazzy when I'm reacting to pucks. I play the best when I'm just almost in this flow state, right? And that includes, motherfucking the ref if they make a bad call. Then it takes my attention away, it takes my energy away, and then now all of a sudden I'm not as focused on the task at hand, which is ultimately stopping pucks. So it's not a great answer for you, but I just tried to not talk to them as much as possible.
There we go. And get some of the chats up in there. I just wanted to switch the layout. So
Did you observe any favorite moments of maybe someone else not being calm?
Well,
you don't have to name them specifically. You can protect the innocent or the guilty by not naming them, but
well, I mean, he's one of my best friends, so I don't mind saying this, but Ryan Lindgren would give it to the refs every single game. I was like, dude, we want them to be on our side a little bit, and you're doing us no favors. because it didn't matter the call. He plays with so much emotion that he just can't control it, which is part of why he is the heartbeat of every team that he plays on. Because you just can't teach that passion and you can't fake that passion. And ultimately it comes out oftentimes in the form of F you and the ref, regardless of what the call is and regardless if he knows he's wrong or not. So there was plenty of FU matches between Ryan and the refs in the 2 years that we played together. So,
yeah, you do see, like a lot of times the linesmen are coming over to take the puck out of your mitt or whatever, and it's probably why you have more connection with the linesmen, because they're always coming over, grabbing the puck or whatever.
Yeah, and the linesmen are like the assistant coaches. The assistant coaches can be cool, right? They can be the fun guys. They can develop a relationship with you because they don't need to be the hardo and the disciplinarian. Yep. And so they can play like the fun uncle role, where they're never too serious. They're calling icings and offsides and like breaking up scrums. So, they're not calling the bad tripping penalty or the 5-minute major. So they can develop that relationship with you, which probably, I also do think he is a great guy, but Schierhorn, that's why we developed such a good relationship. And you see him walking in before every game. Hey, how's it going? Good. Or and before the games, chatting, catching up a little bit. So yeah, naturally, especially for goalies, you develop a way better relationship with the linesman than you do any of the refs.
Yeah, Schierhorn. I can't wait till he gets back on the ice so I can give him a hard time.
Yeah, I got to hear
long legs. It's hard to get out of the way.
Oh, is he 6'6"? He is
so
tall. He's always looking down at players.
Yeah,
no matter what. It's not like he's huge. He's a skinny little guy, but he's just so tall.
He probably won't be looking down to Rombach.
It might be eye to eye.
Maybe eye to eye.
Do you guys have any that come to mind of any past instances with Gopher players or coaches that hilarious ref interactions?
Not that I can think of, really.
I don't think I've identified them like ref to coach, like exactly, because you're always guessing from a distance, like what's going on. Sure. Like you don't know how heated it is. I watched this. There's this website called the Coaches Site, and they do all these presentations about how to coach and how to develop skills and philosophy of coaching. And one of the guys recently talked about Motzko after the regional last year, about how he went after the refs after they lost, and just talking about, the reason a coach would do that, protecting his team, forming that bond with them by protecting them. Not my philosophy on how to handle reffing and mistakes like that, because it's out of your control. You can't control it. But, they just showed the other side of it. So I think, unless you are there to see the interaction, it's hard for me to have these great memories exactly of coaching interactions, because you're just guessing what's going on.
Yeah. And half the time it's just a standard FU match, honestly. There's really nothing more to it. It's just the coach giving it to the ref, and in some cases the ref giving it back. And that's the extent of it. Like, it's a pretty standard heated argument.
I think the only one that really stands out to me was one time Don Lucia got the ref to realize he made a mistake in the rule interpretation, and he got the call overturned.
Right on. Because
he asked the ref to explain to him like what happened and like what did you see? Explain it to me. How'd you make your call? And the ref like explained it to him, and Don actually was like correcting him on the rule and said, actually, I think it's like this. Aren't I right? And the ref was like, oh, you're right. My bad. I'm going to go to the other bench and explain it. And I feel like it was like Michigan Tech or something.
Yeah.
And so he had to go over, and I think it was like Mel Pearson. He had to explain to Mel Pearson why he messed up the call. And then he comes back to Don, and Don's like, all right, thank you. I finally won an argument against the ref.
The one time in his life.
But you could totally see the ref go, oh, God, I got to go tell the other coach what I screwed up on.
Yeah.
That was the only one.
Viggs, this question here.
remember.
Can someone explain to me the rules of inadvertent substitution? Did you catch that when you watched the replay? I think it was
I
Friday
think
night.
when the goalie comes off, you have to wait for the goalie to get all the way to the bench
Mhm.
before you get on the ice. If you get on the ice before the goalie gets to the bench, that's inadvertent.
I think
And
what
they blow it
complicated
dead.
this is that the puck came by the bench at the same time. Because there was a group of people in front of the UND bench and Minnesota bench, and the puck came by while the goalie was trying to get off. And I think that's why people were like,
the goalie has to get off before the player comes on. So if the goalie's
True.
still on the ice and the player comes on, that's
but
they're
if
supposed to blow
the
it
puck
down.
hits a UND player at the same, I think that's why they all four of them got together and talked about it. Because
They're supposed to be really strict on coming on the ice before the goalie gets off.
Mhm.
That's supposed to be a really strict call. You're supposed to blow it dead. So
Yeah, because it would have evened things up and like if too many men, because that's what we were all trying to figure out what the heck.
yeah, too many men is like you've got 6 players on the ice that think they should be on, or someone's not off and they play the puck. But the goalie substitution thing is the thing where they just blow it dead. They don't call too many men on that usually. I think it's
Are
just a
Big Ten
whistle.
officials elevated for their performance? Well, we know that officials are sent down when they play bad because we never saw the referee pair after that UMass loss last year.
Well, if you're
They
a
were
good official,
replaced.
you get extra games in the playoffs and you get nominated to play or ref the regionals in the Frozen Four. So theoretically, the best officials of the year get to work the Frozen Four. The best officials in the conference for the year get to work the Big Ten championship game. Throughout the year, there's a lot of regional assignments for people, to make the games happen. But once you get in that playoff games, the best are supposed to keep reffing. And I think, if you're not a very good ref, you don't become a league official because they just drop you from the rotation, throughout the year.
And that's essentially what happened to what Steve's asking. Do they get face discipline? I'm like, those refs never saw the ice again last season. So
In the playoffs.
in the past, I don't know what they're doing now.
So they're probably back in their league again, and they're getting evaluated again. Because I think that crew had worked a Frozen Four in the past. So like they were thought highly of to get that opportunity. So
I'm curious to know and get both your opinions. I've always liked the idea that if two teams from the same league are in a Frozen Four or even title game, they should get their own league's refs.
What do you mean? What if hockey?
So if like
Big Ten?
Minnesota faces Michigan in the national title game, it should be Big Ten refs reffing that game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, right? Because naturally, you'd think, well, you'd hope that the reffing is relatively the same across the board, but there's obviously going to be tweaks in how different officiating crews ref it, and if the Big Ten has identified a certain crew as the best crew, yeah, I mean, why not? I guess.
I mean, to me, it makes sense because the teams know what to expect from the refs.
Right.
Because
they
right
know,
now, like if you
they
had
know
a
what
Big
works
Ten,
and what doesn't work,
Yeah.
how to communicate with them. They've got a rapport, that type of thing.
because if you have a Big Ten team and an NCHC team, and then you have a Hockey East crew reffing the game, no one really quite knows what to expect until the game's underway. That's always the big thing. It's like you've got to adjust to the refs a little bit throughout the game and figure out what's a penalty.
Right.
Or how much, what are they going to let go in front of the net?
I totally agree.
It would make a lot of sense.
I don't know. It's just that's always kind of been in my head for years. Like, same conference, put a conference ref in there.
Eric, do you ever remember coaches talking about officials going into games now that we're on this officiating rant? They're like, hey, watch out for this ref. He likes to call this, or
Watch
Hey,
out for
careful.
Colin Cronforst.
careful playing pucks, or freezing pucks at a certain spot, or
Yeah, it was more a feeling to Choop's point of like, hey, this guy doesn't take well, so you got to criticism or getting yelled at, so you got to stay off this ref, or he's going to have a quick trigger into the box kind of thing. There was never much of this guy, hates stick penalties or likes to call stick penalties more so than the next. It was really how to handle them, because they're humans, right? And you approach conversations with different people differently based on their personality. And it's no different than the refs, right? Some people can and will take as much crap as anyone, and others will not. And I feel like that's the same with the NHL too, to an extent. Like you hear about, especially for the more veteran refs, like Wes McCauley is one that obviously gets a lot of face time and is well known. And it's like, hey, you stay away from him, partly because he's a vet, but also partly because he doesn't take anything, and he'll give you a 10, no problem.
Andrew Carlson should have been all WCHA crews in Columbus when all 4 WCHA teams were in the Frozen Four.
Right.
Yeah, I just kind of feel bad because, quite a few times we've had 2 teams, WCHA or Big Ten, get into the Frozen Four, and we're not going to see any Big Ten refs.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure, the refs, they want to work the big games. That's a resume builder for them too. I had friends who reffed high school football in Minnesota, and like to ref a prep bowl at like the Metrodome or US Bank Stadium, you would work another like state tournament game where they'd send out evaluators to watch you ref. And if you passed that review, you were on the list the next year for the prep bowl. So like they knew that they were being evaluated. So they're like really into running a good game for the state tournament and trying to get everything right and not have any mistakes. And that's why the way the high school league did it for that. I wonder how they do the hockey tournament, because I think it's refs who don't call penalties get to work those games.
Well, Nick Bradshaw called the state title game last year.
Yeah, the high school league likes a rough game
it's
at the end of the year.
I am not a big fan of that at all. It's a completely different game than it's so much stick work.
You just got to play through it, apparently.
I remember a kid getting
into.
I think it was what was the controversial A tournament game where they thought somebody won the state championship and then it wasn't a goal and they came back and started playing again.
That was the WCHA Mankato versus
that too.
Or are you talking about high school?
There was a high school game where that happened.
There was a high school game in that one, and in that game, for the team that won, one of the players hooked a kid by the neck, and nothing was called. Yeah, I can understand missing it, but if somebody's hooked by the neck and it's obvious, and the referee sees it, can a linesman say, can they stop play? And
well, if they're going to call it a major, right? Linesmen can call majors. Is that a major? Intent to injure?
I don't think it was Monticello, but it wasn't Monticello, but it was Hermantown.
I don't know.
I remember. I think I've got that video out there somewhere, maybe on the YouTube channel.
So, Eric, are you getting into coaching? I heard this about evaluations and helping out with associations. Are you working at Mega? What do you got going on?
Yeah, I kind of bounce around, primarily with Attitude Goaltending, which is Pete Smarge's company.
Okay,
you guys know who Pete Smarge is?
Mm-hmm.
Former Gopher for a little bit in the early 2000s. So it's interesting how they're doing these things now with both skills training for forwards and goalie coaching. Is like people like Pete, have their goalie coaching company, and these associations will contract out his company to say, hey, we've got all these teams and we've got a couple parents who kind of know what they're doing when it comes to coaching goalies, but not near enough and not as good as we maybe want it to be. And so we're going to hire you. We're going to pay you to have people come out to, some practices and run some goalie only sessions once or twice a week, whatever. So I do that primarily for St. Louis Park because I live 5 minutes from the rec center. So I'll run a goalies only skate there, usually once a week in the winter for 2 hours. Have a younger crew on the ice for the first hour, older crew for the second. And then they also contract them out for these evaluations, right? Because hockey parents are nuts, and there's plenty of politics in hockey, and so they're trying as much as possible to have unbiased third parties evaluate who gets put on what team, so they can say, hey, listen, Jimmy, who is best friends and drinking buddies with Bobby's dad, didn't put Bobby on the A team because they're boys. And so I do a lot of the evals for Wayzata goalies, mainly just peewees and bantams. And then for Fortis, if you guys have heard of Fortis, it's another kind of like skills type company that does the same thing, but more so for players. I run their goalie only skate for Edina on Sundays. Same thing. Younger crew for a session, older crew second, and that goes for like 2 months.
You're freezing up a little bit there.
Yeah, our association, we had Mega work with our goalies. I don't think we fit their schedule this year, so we had to recruit kind of a local goalie expert to help our goalies this year. And then we have somebody from Fortis helping us with some power skating. We do these skills nights where we have all of our teams come through the rink once every 2 or 3 weeks, and everyone gets instruction from all the coaches, hopefully, during that night. So
he has completely frozen. Can you still hear us, Eric? He might be gone. Maybe he doesn't have fiber.
He doesn't have gateway fiber, that's for sure.
Oh, Max here. Talking about how excited the Gophers for Carter Casey.
Yeah, he's having quite the year up there.
Oh, yeah, we lost him. He lost his connection. It happens. Yeah, he was like player of the week or something like that recently, Viggs?
Yep, player of the week. He had like a 1.5 goals against. And
damn, St. Louis Park entered. I was sad to see him. It's not lined up. Well, you got to give us a goalie once in a while.
Rob Stauber.
I mean, gosh, someone was telling me that. You ever looked at Stauber's stats in college? Was it you?
Not very impressive.
Not in the numbers.
Not these modern
days.
days, yeah.
It's just a different game, a different style, and everything. Well, we lost Schierhorn. Like I said, doesn't have fiber, Viggs. Must be
pulled the goalie. Pulled the goalie.
So for those of you, I have been doing a lot of little updates to GPL. I'll get a lot of stats on the sites now, NCAA stats, Gopher stats. It's updated automatically, which takes a huge burden off of me because I got sick of manually updating everything. So please check that out when you can, because we're finally like getting data from services that automatically update things. So if something changes, it'll be reflected on the site, or because it never fails that all of a sudden I'd look at somebody's stat and all of a sudden they've got one less assist or they've got one more assist. And how am I supposed to know? Well, these automatic systems will check for you. So sure to check those out. The Gopher stats are all updated, and national stats. It's kind of nice. Let me see if I can bring one up here.
One last plug here for Duluth. A college football teammate of mine, Marine veteran, has opened a distillery in Duluth.
Ooh.
And his tap room had its grand opening this last week.
Really?
So this K. Evans blended rye is my favorite bottle that he has right now that he's offering. So if you're in Duluth, check out Duluth Whiskey Project. It's right over by Bent Paddle and OMC Smokehouse. This rye is delicious. It's the go-to pour for them. Nice little bottle with Kevin's sweet face on here. Big lovable guy.
Is this the guy I met?
We stayed in his house.
Okay, that's what I thought. I
Yep.
just didn't remember. It was a while ago, so I didn't remember his name.
So
I know you talked about that. We drank a lot of his booze that night.
yeah, the rye, very good.
Look at that. Looks nice. Very nice. Let me see if I can do this here.
So they distilled some of it. They sourced some of it too. So it's a blended whiskey. There's a little bit of brandy in here too. So he knows what he's doing, right, Jupe? You've seen his whiskey shelf.
There was a lot of whiskey there. There was a lot of whiskey there.
So he's tasted a lot, so he knows the palate of.
So yeah, I've been
liquor.
adding stats like this. Team stats going all the way across. Let's say okay, like I said, I think Michigan's like 40 goals this year. There it is, 40 goals, only 7 goals against. Now, if you wanted to, you could check. Who's the biggest team? Cornell's the biggest team with weight. Who's the tallest team? I mean, we've got all these stats in here. Massachusetts at 6'2" average. Geez, that's a big team, Bigs. Oh, we got all the skater stats. There's a Serrato. Penn State leading the league with 15 points. So,
just so Steve knows, Kevin's been distilling since 2013.
Ooh,
so he's been doing it for a while, and he's been holding stuff back. So just so you know, I had to plug that.
Oh no, it's all good. I'm plugging things too. Just saying, we got all this stuff, and the stats are being updated. I love it. It just makes it a lot. I could have never done national stats before, and then you see the highlights of Minnesota players. Brody Lamb tied for 17th in scoring and whatnot, goalie stats and whatnot. There's our goalies.
And all this is faster than like any other place you can go, really. I think for these stats.
Yeah, because it's getting them live from various places. Obviously, it takes a little while to load some of the stuff because there's a lot of data here. So some of the teams have only 2 power play goals so far. Vigs, got to work on that.
Yeah, I think it's coming. That Leo Gruba one, kind of should count.
Yeah,
it doesn't technically count, but
yeah, we got all these some team stats here. So obviously the Gopher stats from time on ice.
Do you have block shots on here?
I would have to look. I don't think they have that.
Okay, because I think John Whipple leads the nation in block shots, according to my sources, and the Gophers I think might lead the nation in shots.
I might have to look at that. As you can see, we're kind of victim to data. Look, as they've kind of got Luke Middlestead's data entered weird. So whenever that updates, that's out of our control. I'm not going to manually change it. So I think they even had the goalie records wrong too at one point, because it shows Nathan Airy with 2 ties and he's only got 1. So, but that's what the national stats will say. So they're all going to be like that. So check out the stats. We got a lot of stuff up there. I see Eric texted me. He blames it on AWS crash.
Impacted a lot of people this week. Yep.
I will laugh at him. I'll tell him we pulled the goalie. Oh, jeez. That's kind of loud. All right, Biggs, you got anything else? It's kind of
no. Should be a fun weekend. Always good with this schedule that the Gophers have going this year. So can't wait for
and then
Friday
we're in the
already.
league play. Let's go.
Yeah, Wisconsin. That'll be a big series. So be good to hear from Todd after this weekend how they're doing. Who does Wisconsin have this weekend? Alaska. Not going to learn a lot.
They have which Alaska or is in Fairbanks or Anchorage? Is Alaska just still considered Fairbanks now? They just
this is the Nanooks.
Yeah, they've dropped the Fairbanks. They just call themselves Alaska, kind of like Omaha.
Mm-hmm.
They're not Nebraska Omaha anymore.
Yeah.
What do you do? All right, Biggs, we call it quits here.
Yeah, sounds good.
I think we could do that. It looks like
Yep.
we'll see you on Friday. I'll probably go to Friday. I'm not sure on Saturday yet. So
Yeah, come to Friday. A few drinks, have a few laughs.
bring a pizza.
Bring a pizza.
Bring a pizza for Pizza Friday weeks.
Yeah, one of these days I'll do that when I have a little more time.
When you have time, when your kids are out of the house.
When they can drive. And I'm not coaching them all the time.
Gosh.
I can just go to games. I don't have to go to all the practices.
I did a lot of driving for gymnastics. It was insane.
I do love it. It's fun. So
But man,
every challenge.
it did get a little bit when my daughter's like, I don't want to get my license. I'm like, please get your
I think my parents were
I'm
happier.
sick of driving you.
Yeah, I think my parents were happier than I was when I got my license because I played all kinds of stuff. So,
all right, folks, you guys all have a good night. We'll catch you next week. You got anything, Diggs?
I don't know if I have a quip tonight other than WCCO really crashed the presser today. That was weird.
Uh-oh.